Part 3. The physical properties of colour. As we saw in our second lecture, the energy contained by a given light wave is related to its wavelength, with higher energy associated with shorter wavelengths. We experience visible light of different wavelengths as different colours. Short wavelength visible light we experience as blue or violet, whereas long wavelength visible light we experience as more orange or red. When we experience an object as being of a particular colour, typically we're making a judgment about the reflectance properties of that object. This is because most light sources in our natural environment, be it from the sun or a light globe, emit light of many different wavelengths. That is to say, they contain a broad spectrum of wavelengths. An example of such a broad spectrum can be seen in the illumination spectrum at the top of this image. As you can see, there is more energy in the short wavelength or bluey-green part of the spectrum, as well as the long wavelength or red-orange part of the spectrum, than there is in the middle or yellow part of the spectrum. The diagram shows this broad spectrum of light falling on two separate objects, labelled A and B. Object A absorbs the longer wavelengths but reflects the shorter wavelengths. Because this object reflects the blue light, that is the shorter wavelength light, more so than it does the longer wavelength or red light, this would be seen as a blue-green object. By contrast, Object B reflects only the long wavelength light, so it would be seen as a red-orange object. So, when we make a judgment about the colour of an object or a region of an object, we actually take into consideration the colour and the intensity of the light falling upon it, more so than the local wavelength properties of the light. Perhaps the most famous demonstration of this relationship is the dress. What colours do you see? Do you see it as white and gold or blue and black? These differences in the perceived colour of the dress are down to differences in the colour of the light that one assumes is falling upon it. If one assumes that the dress is being bathed in yellow or golden tinged light, then one sees it as blue and black. Alternatively, if one assumes that it is bathed in blue light, then the appropriate interpretation is that what was seen by someone else as blue is now white, and what looked black to someone else must be gold. Remarkably, the local wavelength properties of the dress seen in the rectangle of gold light on the left and blue light on the right are physically identical.